Welcome to Nameless Debate Radio, where radioactivity is contagious. You can join us in broadening our minds on the Nameless Debates Discord via the link below, and even feature here yourself, if you've got what it takes.
It's not in concreto. So to use analogy in concreto wouldn't necessarily be a refutation.
It would be highly inappropriate.
Okay.
Right? Like, for example, imagine mathematics, right? Mathematics are abstract objects or abstractions, you could say, right?
I don't think math is an abstract object. I think it's a solid object that exists in our world.
No, it's
Can
arbitrary.
you like touch it and what?
It's arbitrary.
Now,
Wait,
no
see,
matter.
but
Here's an actual number 4.
here's my question then. Wouldn't using real-world statistics lead to possibilities that would happen in the future of that society?
Not in a fictional society, no.
Okay, so in the fictional society, everything works the way that you want it to.
No, in a fictional society, I described to you what happens.
Okay, but so you're completely like disregarding the fact that
You can attempt to
certain things
introduce
can
complexities into the fictional society, but you can't quote real-world statistics at me and say, "Oh, this doesn't reflect America in the 21st century." So you're
that wasn't what I was saying at all.
that very much
realize
sounded like what you were saying.
No,
Here's
it
how
did
I
not
see it,
at all.
alright? So if you're gonna talk about a society built from the ground up, why don't we just take statistics from a society built from the ground up in the real world?
Because there are stages of development.
I mean, from what I can see is that you guys are approaching it at 2 completely different angles. One of you guys is saying, let's imagine an ideal society and let's see how we can get there. And the other one is, let's look at what we have and let's make the best of what we have currently in society.
No. Well,
Precisely.
Well, the point that I was trying to prove is that, like, X is not inherently bad. I'm like, okay, let me give you a situation where it's not bad. He starts saying, oh, well, in the real world, X is bad because X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, that's not the point I'm trying to prove.
no, I wasn't, and you know it.
Yes, that is exactly what you said.
Okay, but we both agreed that wealth inequality in of itself is not bad. But the point where we differ is where too much wealth inequality happens. That's
No,
where
I
we
was just
differ.
trying to prove to you that large wealth inequality is not inherently bad. You're like, oh, well, when 20% X, Y, and Z, I'm like, look, dude, it doesn't fucking matter. I'm going to prove.
Large wealth inequality is inherently a bad thing, though, because
No,
too
it's
much
not, and I can
because-
prove it to you if you'll set aside your predictions for a minute and listen to the argument.
Oh boy! All right, go ahead.
Okay. So we use the same example, building a house, right?
Yes.
Someone has a long and illustrious career of building and selling nice houses, okay? Other people have not done this. They've done things like dig ditches and such, manual labor, okay? They haven't put in as much work, as much intellectual effort as it takes to be an architect, okay? This person delegates much of the manual labor to employees when he's building houses. He draws up all of the plans, makes sure they are structurally sound, and makes them aesthetically pleasing. The manual laborers, all they do is they look at the plan and they do what it says. Okay? Is it not fair to say that the architect is putting in much more effort than the manual laborers?
They're making the equal amount of work
What?
because they are all equally contributing to that house.
No, they're not. The manual laborers would have no idea what to do if it wasn't for the architect. He designed the place.
Just because the ideas come from one person doesn't mean equal more work.
I mean, if I may interject,
Harder to
I
design
think,
a structurally sound house than it is to hammer some nails into boards.
I think what he's trying to say is not that the work of the architect requires more effort, just that the work of the architect is far more valuable, and hence, should
No,
get
I would
more.
say that it does require more effort.
And how would you
And
measure
there's your
the amount of
problem.
effort?
Okay, in that case, I can't help you there.
Okay, and how would you measure the effort then?
That's a good question. Perhaps we measure it by the amount of education and experience that it's required to do the task sufficiently.
Okay, but anybody can
And
go
then we
and build
take
a
and
house.
then we take that number, and then we take into account the raw production that it produces.
Okay. But would you agree with us that anybody would be able to go out and build a house well?
Not
As long
well.
as they put-
Anybody could go out and build a house. Not everybody could go out and build like a mansion. No, they couldn't.
Really? Because if we're going by your example, if somebody puts in enough of effort, then they are obviously going to be able to build that mansion.
If they start small and they educate themselves, then yeah, anybody could. Not everybody on the street just say, "I'm going to build a mansion," and then do it successfully. Just
Okay, but
like that.
The problem I'm having here is that equal effort doesn't always equal outcome. So I don't see how, let's say,
Yeah, that's
the
true.
result
Because we have sunk investments, and we have risk, and we have all these other factors.
Okay, so now we're bringing other factors.
Well, I'm explaining to you why architect's work is much more valuable than the manual laborer.
Okay, but the thing is, anybody can be an architect.
Yeah, anybody can be an architect with enough application, but not everybody does become an architect.
Okay.
Not everyone puts in the work.
Okay, but if you're still putting in the effort to be an architect, then you're still able to become an architect. That and
Yeah.
later down the line, what are you going to do after you built all these houses?
We're going to sell them.
Okay, so you make a bunch of money off of selling the houses.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens then?
Then you have a lot more money than the manual laborers you've been paying this whole time.
Okay, and what are you going to do after that?
You'll have a large degree of wealth inequality.
No, I'm not.
bad.
How much? I'm not asking.
No.
How you have. What I'm asking is what's going to happen after that.
Well, I assume if he's accrued enough money, he'll probably retire.
Okay, and what?
He'll go
does this
back to
person-
building more houses.
Okay, does this person? Well, technically, he's not even building the houses. He's designing the houses. If he's an architect, would you
Well,
agree with that?
he's financing the entire project, and he's designing it. And he's finding the customers, and he's being a salesman. You know.
Okay.
Well,
And
is financing really effort?
Yes, it's accruement of risk.
Okay, I
Accruement-
can see your point.
I can see his point too, but that doesn't mean that the ideal. What's the term? That doesn't mean that this idealist version of it's going to happen. Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
When this doesn't.
Yeah,
Because
sure.
let's say this person.
But all I'm trying to say is that large degree of wealth inequality is not inherently a bad thing.
Okay, but let's go down this a bit further. This
No,
person.
hold on. Oh, okay.
No,
So
hold
you
on,
you
hold on.
agree to
have
the
gone
you
on your
agree to the
example. No, you have
you
gone on
agree
your
to the
example
point
for-
though that in
Hey.
that situation it's not a
Hold
bad.
on. Hold on. I'm expanding upon your premise. So
But can we agree that in the example that I gave, it's not a bad thing?
What he's trying to do here, he's trying to go with your argument and see where the conclusion lies.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's
All right.
basically
And I
assuming
will
the
and I'll let him
conclusion
and I
without-
will let him do this right after he answers my question.
okay, that that wealth inequality that he's made from building houses isn't necessarily a bad thing.
All right. That's
But-
my point that I'm
but
trying to
later-
prove.
okay,
now
but-
continue with the argument if you'd like.
Okay, so let's say this person has a kid. This person keeps building houses. This person teaches his kid how to build houses. Then he dies, and all the wealth is transferred to this kid, who has put in much less effort because he hasn't done as much work. Then that kid, because he hasn't done as much work, goes and hires other architects and pays them less money than they would make normally to build houses. This person does it, has a kid, and wants.
Why would the architects even go for less money than they would be able?
Simple because it's less risk for them.
Okay.
Now, later down the line, this person also has a kid. Now, this kid has less experience, but he has more money from this person.
I'd say that he wouldn't be an architect anymore. He'd just be a financier.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a legitimate field of work, by the way.
Yes, it is a legitimate field of work. But later down the line, this person starts hiring more architects. And so all these architects aren't working for themselves. They're working for this one person. They're making less money.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, another person is also trying to go and be an architect. Or somebody else has this money, but less money than they can offer, and starts asking architects, and starts even asking one architect to work for him in order to build these houses. Now, because he has less money, architects aren't going to work for him. They're going to work for the person who's paying more money. So people are starting to be shut out of that field of,
Well, I'd say you could offer people things other than money.
Like what?
Like freedom, or like benefits, or like other business contacts. There are plenty of things that people use as compensation.
But this is somebody who's just trying to enter the industry. That's what you're forgetting.
Well, they could give them a degree of personal freedom. It's like, oh, I don't care what designs you crank out as long as they work, Whereas the other company could say, oh, it has to be X, Y, and Z type of design.
Okay, and if the other company,
they could say, we create houses that are of this type to a much higher quality than the generic architect's firm. Like this.
Okay, and then if
markets that you could tap.
Okay, and then if that architectural firm, which is bigger, starts seeing that this person up and coming starts doing something and starts taking away the profits, then the bigger architectural company starts saying, "Hey, we have more money and power. We're able to not only pay our architects more, but if we start doing what this person's doing, then we can do what they do, but better because we have more money, and we can."
That's why you have patents.
Okay, so you're going to patent houses, which have been completely
you patent a certain architectural technique that makes your houses of higher quality.
Okay, now what's stopping?
And then for 20 years or whatever the length of the patent is, nobody can copy you.
Okay, and so what's stopping this giant company from patenting all their house designs and making it so that the most efficient house designs that they find aren't able to be used by anyone else? So that draws more people. Sorry.
Nothing.
Really? So somebody
that encourages innovation. It allows people to create different ways to go about the same thing.
Okay, but this company ends up patenting all of the most efficient ways of building houses, and then as they see more developments coming up, patent those. Then how are people able to start going into this market more and more?
May I
eventually
quickly ask you a realistic question about patents?
Go ahead.
Exactly what is being patented? The carpentry, the framework.
Yeah, you have to be very specific in a patent. You wouldn't be able to just say,
you can't patent just a whole house design, and the reason why is because the people that
a specific method of joining beams or whatever such thing.
Well, no, it can't even be that, because the standard for joining beams is set by what is regarded as the national standard of safety in house building. If it does not meet construction quality standards, then it can easily be ruled as or deemed as an unsafe house and be torn down, and the builder can lose there.
Vinny, just a quick correction for you. This is a completely new nation. None of these organizations are set up.
Yeah, well, the government hasn't come in and started regulating things yet.
Yeah.
But
the point I'm trying to make the point I'm trying to make is people have come in later down the line are making so much money because
these patents aren't forever. They eventually expire. They don't last all that long.
But what I'm trying to say is because these people have been born into wealthy families over a period of time, they have so much power because they are so big that they are going to dwarf the competition. And that's how things like monopolies start in an unregulated economy.
Monopolies do not form in free markets.
Monopolies also can occur
Sorry.
Excuse me. Monopolies actually can occur as an accident as well. Say the competition are not investing their properties correctly. They're not watching the competition for certain things. Would you agree that maybe monopolies are not always a purposeful intention of different corporations in the free market?
It may not be a purposeful intention, but if something's going to guarantee you a amount of money, obviously companies are going to go on that idea. And here's the thing.
Do you understand the
concept
of a free market, though? Do you understand the concept that a free market only thrives when it has competition?
Yes, it does. But
monopolies can't happen. Monopolies happening is a problem.
But the free market is a gateway for these to happen.
And what happens when the market stagnates? What happens when
it's only a gateway when the market shakes hands with the government and decides to make that happen.
When the market stagnates, naturally speaking, when the market stagnates, innovators come in and shake things up. This is why monopolies don't happen.
Actually, you can look at Disney and look at all the things they own. You can look at Coca-Cola and look at all the things they own.
Big oil.
Yeah, and both of those
are monopolies.
And all three of those industries have been heavily interfered in by the government.
Let me ask you something. What about Pepsi? What about 7-Up?
What about Dr. Pepper?
What about Dr. Pepper? It's not a monopoly.
Coca-Cola may be the largest, but they're by far not the only one. There's plenty of other big companies in the soft drink.
That and here's the thing, Universal. The problem with that is the government stepped in to when monopolies actually formed. There have been no media monopolies that have been started. You have to go and look at examples of monopolies that have started up in the past. Look at what caused them and look at what fixed them.
Well, I would
because
say
there are monopolies in the past which have happened, and the only reason that these monopolies do not have as much power is because they were creating so much problems and so much inequality for the country that the government stepped in and then broke them up. Because the free market.
Why is your value equality?
My value isn't true equality, but here's the thing: monopoly, like in a free market.
You keep saying equality, equality, equality. Why?
Simple, because it gives equality of opportunity, make it so that people can actually break into that industry. But if monopolies form, then they have so much power that they're able to.
Yeah, it shouldn't be easy to break into an industry.
Yeah, it should definitely not be
disagree.
easy to break into an industry.
Easy.
Do you think that? Wait, hold on 1 second. So, do you think that any company should be allowed to make cars? Like, say they really desire to get in the market with cars?
Yes, they should be able to make cars if they want.
You have to meet certain standards. You can't create.
I agree that they have
explode on people.
I agree that they have to meet certain standards, but
so these are different. These are barriers to entry.
Any company that meets those standards should be able to make cars, but what the monopoly does is blocks those companies that meet the standards.
Can I explain something to you? There's not a monopoly in the car industry.
No,
you understand that, right?
But you're using the car.
There are a lot of big contenders at the top.
I'm just using an example.
I understand, but you seem to be mistaking a monopoly with big contenders that can basically rule out the smaller car manufacturers. Right?
A monopoly and a cartel are not the same thing.
Correct.
It's not even a cartel.
But
the thing is, if a monopoly,
that's the old term for it.
Okay, but here's the thing: the point that he's trying to make is, if a monopoly does start up in the car industry, then because of the amount of power that they have, because
what power do you have?
The mass amount of wealth.
You're voluntarily exchanging goods and services. What power does that?
Simple, because of that exchange of goods and services, and because of the mass amount of inexistent regulation that allows you to build up this giant monopoly, and that makes it so you have so much power over people who want to enter your industry.
Let me explain something. If you're talking about putting a market cap, like if say for instance they made this much amount, but the rest, if they start making above this amount, they have to start submitting that to I don't know what you would do with it. What would you do with a surplus of like finances?
Taxes, tax money, I guess.
So you give it straight to the government. You wouldn't give it to charity.
Charities are useless.
Yeah, like with monopolies, like
I didn't say social services. I mean charity, Red Cross or.
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to big, monopolies like Rockefeller's big oil monopoly, he gave a bunch. You
keep saying monopolies, though. Where are the monopolies that you're pointing to? What currently is in the free market of monopoly?
He's pointing back to the Rockefellers.
Yeah, back when there wasn't regulation.
They don't currently maintain that monopoly status.
No, they don't.
Yes,
you want to know why?
Just giving
you want to know
an
why?
Example.
Why?
Well, because they had too much power. That's what I'm trying to say.
The government said they had too much.
So,
like the
what power? What power?
Money is power.
No, it's not.
Oh my God.
Yes, it is.
Not. No, it's not. Do you know why?
They're two distinct things.
Actually, I'm curious to see what.
Okay, so money doesn't give you power. Having more money than everybody else doesn't give you a major advantage in the market.
No, it doesn't give you power.
So having a mass amount of wealth that you over other people means that you do not have more of an advantage over that industry.
Advantage is not power.
I doubt.
How? What do you mean by power?
Explain how.
I'm talking about the ability to force people to do things.
Explain how. Explain how advantage is not equal to power.
Because power is the ability to force people to do things.
No, you're wrong.
Yes, that's what power is. That's what the state has. They have power.
Okay, power. Definition: the ability to do something or act in a particular way, especially as a faculty or quality. 2. The capacity or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. So, by going
the course of events. So, the course of the stock market, for example.
I don't think that any one corporation could ever determine the actions of the stock market.
Well, actually, passively, they are able to, because if a company is doing so very, very successfully, then people are going to have, very vested interest. They're going to have very big support for that company because they have so much power that they would be influencing the stock market because people have so much, what's the word? They have so much trust, so much trust in that industry or trust in that company, which gives them that power because people have so much trust in them that in the stock market they're actually gaining value because of the amount of trust that they have. That's how the stock market works. Their value goes up the more that people trust those stocks are valuable.
Yeah.
So that company does have power in the stock market because if people trust them so much because of the amount of power that they have economically, and justification that they won't fail because of the amount of power that they have, then that will affect the stock market.
I don't think that any company is immune to failure, though.
What about the banks?
The banks are not immune to failure.
The banks are too big to fail. People have said this many times.
Nobody is too big to fail. East India Company.
The banks are too big to fail.
I'm gonna have to stop you there. Yeah, the banks. No one's immune to failure.
If the East India Company could fail when they employed a quarter of the population on Earth, Nobody is too big to fail.
I mean, look at Pan Am. They were a very large airline. They were very successful, and then the next day they were gone.
Yeah, nobody is too big to fail. That's not a real thing. Capitalism is about profit and loss.
Yes. But if you accrue so much power over a certain period of time, then you're going to minimize the amount of loss that you have.
Yeah, but it can't be taken
You
to
have control
zero.
over an industry that disadvantages a huge amount of people.
Oh my!
Because they are not able to enter that industry as easily because one player has so much power over that industry over the years of accruing power within that industry.
Oh my goodness!
Like, you can refute historical evidence as much as you want, but the 20th century and even 21st century with big tech, there are so many monopolies that have affected the market.
Name one monopoly. Go ahead.
They were monopolies.
Name one.
Was a monopoly.
What, in the 1920s?
Not just the 1920s, as early as the 1800s, where Rockefeller had so much power that he was accruing what now is
what happened to
billions of dollars. What happened? The government stepped.
Failed.
Yeah, you want to know why he failed? Because he was ruining the market so much because of the amount of power that he had, that the government stepped in because people like Rockefeller caused the Great Depression in the 1930s because of the amount of power that they have. The government intervened in order to fix the economy.
Rockefeller did not cause the Great Depression.
Rockefeller caused a massive amount of wealth inequality within America.
We've already discussed that wealth inequality isn't inherently a bad thing.
Oh my god. No, we have discussed how wealth inequality in and of itself isn't a bad thing, but too much wealth inequality is a bad thing.
Can you demonstrate that?
I've been doing that this entire time. University has been doing that the entire time. You just aren't listening because you're a laissez-faire capitalist who does not listen to historical or economic reasoning behind anything that I say.
Are you accusing me of arguing in bad faith right now?
No, I'm not. No, not in bad faith. But what you're doing is completely misunderstanding it because of your ideology and because of our ideological differences. You have different solutions or something for what you see as problems or what you even see.
I'm ashamed that you have so little faith in it. Is that right?
Okay, well that's your problem, not mine.
I just am incapable of seeing any point that disagrees with my own. Is that what it is?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Do you think that I'm just incapable of seeing any point that disagrees with my own?
Yeah, I would agree with that, actually. Daz can easily agree with that.
Daz would agree with that?
Yeah, Daz would agree with that. Crambo would agree with that. Cross, even though
I would.
don't like Cross would agree with that.
I don't know that that's true. NSYNC has changed my mind on a few issues.
Yeah, because you and NSYNC are both capitalists.
What? No, not even about capitalism. He's changed my mind on issues that have nothing to do with economics.
Well, you and NSYNC are so ideologically aligned with each other because
he and I are not even close to ideologically aligned.
Oh boy.
He's a Platonist, dude. I'm a hard Aristotelian. I don't understand what you mean by ideology. You must not know my ideology.
Sorry, what'd you say?
I said you must not know our ideologies very well if you think that. We disagree heavily.
Okay, well, I do not have evidence to refute that point. I have heard and debated NSYNC, and from my experiences with both of you, you do seem very ideologically aligned.
You should ask him about that, I think.
I will happily ask him about that eventually. But here's the problem. Because because of your presuppositions about like socialism and about this whole like socialist apologetic thing and all that, even when things have been proven to be good remedies to problems, economic failure, wealth inequality.
I don't know, man. I think it's rich that the socialist is telling the capitalist that he's ignoring historical evidence.
Yes, because I can give historical evidence. I've been giving historical evidence this entire time. Universal philosopher can point to historical evidence. Hell, I'm giving historical evidence of big oil, which is the biggest monopoly ever, and I'm even able to.
I don't think you know a whole lot about Standard Oil.
I'm not talking about Standard Oil. I'm talking about big oil, Rockefeller's monopoly.
Yeah, Rockefeller's company was called Standard Oil. That tells me how little you know.
You see, even if oil is not a monopoly, it's still harming our environment, so I think we should just cut out all oil altogether.
Yeah, but okay, so what do you
That's not
plan to
economically
do
feasible.
for the people, the citizens, who need to get to work? Blue collar workers, like, is there a plan that you
Hey,
have?
buddy.
Yes, we simply take Tesla will have a huge boom. All right.
Okay. Tesla will have a
And
boom.
since there's no, and then the smaller electric car companies will have a rise. All right, and then the all of our oil cars will be converted electrically.
Do
Do you know what it costs to actually convert a gasoline car to electric?
And you want to know how you fix that, Benny?
Huh?
You want to know how you fix that?
Are you going to say government subsidies right now?
Yeah, I'm going to say government subsidies right now.
Disgusting.
Okay, so where's the government going to generate the revenue? Pay that off.
Taxation.
So you're going to tax every citizen for something they didn't ask to.
Raising taxes is underrated, really. We need to really raise taxes because higher taxes means lower spending.
What is the legitimate role?
You guys might have a very starry-eyed view of what happens when you raise taxes. That's not realistic on any platform.
Anyway,
okay, and how about if we don't raise taxes?
And by the way, since we're mentioning harming the environment, are you aware of the mountains in Chile? There aren't any. Do you know why?
Why, Benny?
Because in order to mine lithium, you have to knock mountains down to make way for those lithium fields to actually be made. So, since we're, talking about environmental factors here.
Vinny, do you know how city rails work?
What works?
Do you have any idea how Picatinny rails work?
What rails? City rail?
Picatinny rails, like on guns.
No.
My upper came in today, and I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. Like.
Anyway, continue.
The lithium, from what I see, is a chemical used for medicine. Am I correct?
It's used in lithium-ion batteries primarily, which are used in electric cars.
Well, losing mountains is worse than losing mountains better than losing our entire planet.
Yeah. Especially since mountains don't actually really affect a giant hunk of stone doesn't affect our climate.
Except
Also,
if there is animals living in that mountainous environment, In which case, we could just move them. We could just make man-made mountains that would.
Why not just move the whole mountain?
Insane. I've got a question for you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Do you and I ideologically align on many issues?
On what, sorry?
On many issues, do you and I ideologically align?
No, not many. I wouldn't say so, no.
Adderite said that you and I are very ideologically aligned.
I don't think that's
spoke
accurate.
to you both about.
I told him that as well.
What did you say, Adderite?
Because of what I've heard both of you talk about, and from me talking to both of you about issues.
I think you're not very familiar with either of us.
Yeah, like what, for instance?
Economics.
What about economics?
He thinks we align on economics.
Yeah, but like in what way?
In what way?
Ideologically upholding the free market.
Have you ever heard me talk about the free market?
Yes, I have.
I don't think you have.
Now, if I didn't hear the entire conversation, then that's my bad. But I've heard you talk about the free market.
In what context? What did I say?
I don't recall. All I know is that
I
I've heard
don't
you talk
recall
about the
saying
free market in a way that was pro free market.
I mean, I don't tend to talk about economics because I don't know very much about it.
Okay, well, maybe I was making a presupposition based on past conversations without having full context. At least to my knowledge, that wasn't full context.
It's possible. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Also, Crambo. So, when it comes to the whole like funding,
Hey, Adderite, just quickly.
Yeah, sure.
It's Crambo. No T. No T. Don't say the T.
I'm gonna say the T just to trigger you.
Just Crambo. It's Crambo.
I'm gonna use the T just to trigger you.
Yeah, me too.
You don't even understand why it's there, and I think it's hilarious.
Well, I don't care. It's how your name is spelled.
Excuse me, I'm going to enforce that you call him by his correct pronoun. If you say that one more time, you'll be labeled for hate speech, sir.
Hey, fun fact. It isn't hate speech. I think you actually need to understand what gender pronouns are, of any.
It's funny though, because the reason that those last two letters exist in my name is to make fun of you guys.
All right. Well, anyways, Cramboat. Let me ask you this. So, government subsidies towards things like more clean energy in order to try and shift out...
Government subsidies in general, I don't agree with.
Okay, well, they work, so...
That's a bold claim.
New Deal.
How is it a bold claim?
I don't know, saying that anything categorically does something is a big claim.
Okay, we can also use historical evidence to prove that. How about the New Deal by FDR? Which leads into my point.
Didn't work.
Actually, that did not work. World War II.
Why would you say the New Deal? That's like
the
that's
Great
nationally
Depression.
recognized for being the worst thing the government has ever done.
Really?
I mean, it gave us morale, but nothing else.
It also led to a 10% decrease in unemployment.
God.
It led to massive boom in the United States economy. It led to things like unemployment insurance.
You're thinking about World War II.
No, I'm talking specifically about the New Deal. The New Deal was before World War II. It didn't end the Great Depression, but it sure as hell contributed to ending the Great Depression, as any historian or economist.
Oh yeah,
will say.
I can see that. But what really ended the Great Depression was World War II.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the New Deal did,
The New Deal did help a little bit and raised our morale to get us into World War II and end the Great Depression.
And it also helped out with a lot of things within the United States. One of the best ones being unemployment insurance.
What?
Unemployment insurance. Like insurance so that if you are fired or you have to leave your job or you quit your job, you have money to fall back on.
Also, it gave us Social Security.
Which, by the way, the government's been taking money out of. So that's not a thing. Thanks.
I would like a citation for that, if any. But anyways, so when it
Hey,
comes to
Crambo,
Yeah.
were you aware that seniors that are trying to redeem Social Security right now are not finding any there for them, or prior to our kind of economic rise?
Yeah,
They
I
were
know
not able
something
to.
about that.
Yeah. And it's
Well,
because
can I-
it's government money, and when the government needs money, where does it go to take it?
social programs instead of, oh, I don't know, the wealthy. Or instead of putting so much money towards the army, but
Those
no.
goddamn rich people, we should just take all their money for the government.
That's not what I'm saying whatsoever. But how about the
Actually,
fact
we
that rich
should
people get
just
more tax breaks than
genocide. No, actually,
Those
unironically,
greedy.
I know,
we should,
I know
we
what
should actually
we
just
should
genocide the
cut out
wealthy people.
we should cut out the middleman of taxation and have the government seize the means of production directly.
No, that's not what I'm advocating it for at all, and you know that, Cramboat.
No.
Like, but here's
Did you say that we should kill the bourgeoisie? Is that what I heard?
how about both? Shut up.
Something like that.
But how about the fact that currently in the United States, wealthy people get more tax breaks than the middle class or lower class? You know, the people who actually need
They
them.
also pay a much higher
Did you
tax
say they
rate.
get
don't
more tax breaks?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do pay a higher tax rate. But when it comes to tax breaks, such as charity tax refunds, they save more money. For instance, if a poor person making $30,000 an hour puts $100 towards their church and or
Wait,
charity,
did you just say $30,000 an hour?
no,
Sorry,
$30,000
just for...
a year. A year.
There we go. That's better.
But someone making $30,000 a year puts $100 towards charity or local church. They get a $15 tax refund at the end of the year. Now, somebody making $50,000 a year, if they put $100 towards charity or their church, actually gets $39.67 off of their taxes at the end of the year. Because instead of it being a flat tax refund, it is a percentage-based tax refund based on your economic status. And so people end up abusing that in order to gain more money.
So I'm hearing that we should have a flat tax. I agree.
Flat tax rate in certain areas, yes.
No, in general. I figured it out, by the way.
Okay, flat tax rates in general fail on a very basic level.
Why is that?
Thank you for listening. Like, share, subscribe, and join us in the Nameless Debates Discord. We hope to see you there.